Hello and welcome to the check-in. Thank you for checking in with us on this Thursday. Sometimes on these check-ins, we look at the things that are getting us through, the books, the music, the coping strategies and structures that are helping us get by in a crisis. And a big answer to this question for many of us is it's our faith that is getting us by. But one challenging aspect of this crisis has been that when it comes, that the crisis comes with public health orders and advice to shut down and isolate in order to stay safe just when you need those you love around you and you need your faith community around you. So how are our faith communities in mid-Missouri connecting and sustaining themselves and each other during this crisis? And what tough decisions are they making about whether to congregate with their faith community going forward? Today, we have three mid-Missouri faith leaders here to talk with us about faith during crisis. And I just have to say, I'm very excited to talk with all three of these faith leaders in our community. We have the Reverend Clyde Ruffin from Second Missionary Baptist Church. Reverend Ruffin, welcome to the check-in.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
We also have Imam Shakir Hammoudi with the Islamic Center of Central Missouri. Mr. Hammoudi, Ramadan Kareem, and thank you for joining us on the check-in.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you. And we have Ms. Jana Lancaster joining us from CBS or Congregation Beth Shalom. Jana, thanks for joining us on the check-in today.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So let me first let our listeners know you can join us. We'd love for you to check in with us on what your faith group and congregation is doing right now. How are you practicing your faith and connecting with your faith community during this time? What are your plans going forward with reopening? Are you thinking about going back to your congregation, but concerned about safety right now? Let us know what's on your mind. So I want to talk with each of you. We're in a spring season full of important annual rituals right now. We've had Passover in April and Easter and Ramadan just finishing up. Let me start with you, Reverend Ruffin. I know that there are many times that Second Baptist is packed to capacity, and Easter is one of many other regular celebrations that pack out the historic Second Baptist building here in downtown Columbia. What was your Easter like this year for you and your family, and also for Second Baptist worshipers?
Well, we made the difficult decision of simply not having anything happen on Easter, and so it was challenging for us in that regard because, as you said, Easter is obviously a very important holiday and celebration. It is the foundation of our faith, belief in the resurrection of Jesus Christ, and so we were all in our individual homes celebrating with our families, and all of the activities that are usually done were simply not done. We also have traditionally held a Good Friday service on the Friday before Easter, where the church is filled and we do a reenactment of the crucifixion, and that didn't happen.
Did you hear from worshipers at Second Baptist on what they were doing instead? Were they finding workarounds and ways to celebrate and connect with each other?
That was so early in this journey that everyone was still scrambling, trying to just figure out how to deal with the emotions of that experience. And so it was not until a couple of weeks after that where people really began to get creative and to strategize in ways to practice their faith and stay connected.
All right, and I want to hear about some of those strategies, though, and ways that people are staying connected. Jana Lancaster, last month was Passover celebrations, and usually this is a time for families getting together, hosting Seder, which is something that is really all about people around a table celebrating with stories and song, not to mention food, and very much doing this together. What was Passover like this year for you and members of CBS?
Well, you're definitely right. Food and sharing food, passing it around is really an important part of Passover. In years past, there are typically 2 nights people celebrate. So in the past, people have done sort of their at-home things one night, and then we've had a community-wide Passover that people can come to and the community-wide one at the temple did not happen. People made various plans. In our house, we've had in years past lots of friends over. Maybe 2 or 3 years ago, we had like 36 people, I think, in our kitchen. This year, it was me and my husband and my children, very quiet. And I have to say, it was really nice. It was really different. It was nice. So we did that one night, and then another night we joined friends who we would typically join in person for a Zoom Seder, or what I heard people were calling Zeders.
Oh,
yeah.
That's good branding, the Zeder.
The Zeder. It was the Zeder. And that was really fun too, a little different. But I think everybody, did what they could.
Okay. Mr. Hammoudi, similarly, this has been a very different Ramadan year. You spoke with us at the beginning of Ramadan here on the check-in. What has this celebration been like for you and for members of the Islamic Center this year?
Well, I mean, Ramadan, usually we have our building there in downtown Columbia, the Islamic Center of Central Missouri. Really was a center place for us to get together and break our fast every night and enjoy the prayer until midnight.
Yes.
This year we could not do it, as we mentioned before at the beginning of Ramadan, for the reason that the coronavirus. But what we discovered is that God has opened a new venue for us, this Zoom and internet, to connect with the community and to basically continue almost all our activities. Mainly our activities are educational. So we did continue until now our activities through Zoom. And we have the WhatsApp, and we have a YouTube, and we have... So every day we are very, very busy, in fact, connecting with the community and trying to fulfill our obligation towards God. After all, God is there. Yes, the mosque is out of the picture, but God is still there. Our hearts are still there, and that is what is most important. We can worship God wherever we may be, at home or in the mosque or in the street or in an airport. So that is what... probably is the most important lesson that we can take. Some of us, unfortunately, forgot about that, but now we are realizing that, hey, we are human beings, we are a creation of this God, and He is there. His wisdom dictates that this is going to happen as a test for us, and we have to at least look at the positive side of it and act accordingly.
All right. What a great reminder. Thank you, Mr. Hammoudi. So let me remind listeners you're listening to the check-in on KBIA, and you can join us as we talk with 3 distinguished faith leaders in our community. How has Ramadan been for you this year? What about your Passover celebrations? Did you hold a Seder? Did you participate in this? Not quite as good as 36 people crammed in your kitchen like Jenna Lancaster is describing last year, but maybe your Seder went fine. And what about your Easter with Second Baptist or any other Easter congregation? What were you able to do with your family? Let us know. Let us know the challenges in your faith tradition. How are you staying connected with your faith community right now? Have you found ways of gathering with your faith community? And what are you planning to do going forward? Are you considering the safety aspects in congregating again? Let us know how you're practicing your faith. Let's talk about some of these virtual events. Mr. Hammoudi, you mentioned this, and I know that your Islamic Center has put some teachings online. Can you tell us a little bit more about those?
Yes. One of them, for example, the prayer that we used to do at night, and now we are reciting the same portion of the Quran. The Quran is 30 portions. Every night we recite one full portion. We used to do that while praying, so now we are doing it from home, and we are connecting with the community through Zoom and through YouTube. So this is one thing. The Quran is full of wisdom, and it is the word of God after all, and it gives us really the direction for our lives. What are the ethics that we have to live by. So this is at least one program that we have. We have other classes during the day, how to correctly recite the Quran, for example. And that is how we have to really do that from the very young age all the way until the maturity and then beyond. We have our children in the Islamic school also at the time of the public school closing their classrooms and also their virtual classes. We did continue to provide our children with exactly the same education they had face to face. So having a small school and very dedicated community, we were able to really serve those children equally, just like as if they are in the class, and we provided to them, along with the education, with the content, a lot of games that are available online. As I said before, God has provided this venue. This is wonderful, and the kids are really very happy to join the learning and the fun at the same time. So it is play to learn is really the philosophy at this time. So we found that as successful. And we also have, if somebody has a question about how to do this, how to do that according to Islam, and we have many WhatsApp sites and emails, and so we can answer the questions of the community. And we have also activities, outreach to the media and to the university and so on and so forth. So we are basically busy with these. Now we are discussing what to do for the day of Eid, that is the celebration, and what to do beyond that, after that, regarding opening or not opening, gradual opening, and so on and so forth. Yes. So we are discussing as we speak.
Yes.
But safety is the top priority for us, and also listening not that much to politicians, but very much to the data and the scientists.
All right. I want to hear more about the plans going forward. And that Islamic school sounds great, not only for the kids, but I'm sure the parents are very thankful for this happening right now. Let me ask you, Jana, I know that Congregation Beth Shalom has a few Zoom events, quite a few, going on every week, including a sisterhood cocktail hour, I noticed, which sounds interesting. How are the teachings and lessons and the gatherings going online for Congregation Beth Shalom, Jana?
They're going really well. Actually, to prepare, I made a list because we have so much going on. I wanted to make sure I didn't, leave anyone out. But we do. We have social events such as Sisterhood Happy Hour and then coffee. Sunday mornings, people are gathering for coffee. We have Friday nights, we're having services. Our religious school director and some religious school staff are consistently leading Friday night services on Zoom. We're doing Saturday morning Torah study. Volunteers are leading that every Saturday morning. And then we also have weekly education sessions. We have a holiday coming up that we're hoping to have a Zoom service for next week. And so in terms of what's happening online, it's a fair amount.
Okay, great. Let me just remind our listeners, this is the Check-In. I'm Janet Saidi, and we're talking with Jana Lancaster, Shakir Hamoudi, and Clyde Ruffin, all community faith leaders, talking with us about faith during crisis. How are we gathering virtually with our faith communities right now? What do you miss about gathering in person with your faith community? And how are we making decisions about gathering going forward? Let us know how you're practicing your faith and connecting with your faith community during this time. Reverend Ruffin, let me ask you a very big question, actually, which is, how do you see evidence of faith sustaining your congregation during this time? And you are actually balancing your congregation leadership with Second Baptist, with First Ward Council member work. How are you doing, and what are you hearing from your congregation members about faith getting you through right now?
Well, that's a very good question. Let me take a moment and backtrack to the first question.
Yes, please.
I was so focused on all the things that we are endeavoring to do to stay connected now that it was brought to my attention that on Easter Sunday, we actually had an outdoor service. in our
Oh,
parking lot, and we're
wow,
given
that's awesome.
permission from the city to
Uh-huh.
have a drive-in Easter service, and we had a flatbed truck that we parked on 4th Street, and we set up our outdoor PA system, and everyone came in their cars and stayed in their cars, and in the African American tradition, whenever there is preaching, we're so accustomed to the celebrating the call and response that is rooted in our African culture, and we're used to hearing people say "Amen" and to encourage the speaker, and so that was done by honking the horns on the cars that day, and it was a very different experience. I've never preached outside, standing on the back of a truck, but we had a great gathering that day, and everyone seemed to be really encouraged by it.
Yeah, that sounds incredible. Yeah. So now on to the next question. You also, you all might be doing virtual events as well if you want to update us on those. But yeah, the larger question I'm also really curious about is just how you're balancing the council member duties with the faith leadership, and also what you feel like is sustaining people through faith right now.
Well, certainly those two roles are intersecting in a very interesting way, because as a member of the city council, we get daily updates from the city manager as well as the director for public health. And so many times I have information just a day or so ahead of the general public. And so that's been good. And I also have access to the information regarding what the city is doing to address the inequities in our community, particularly those who may not be able to afford a doctor's visit, or may not be able to afford originally the cost for the test. And so to know that our city is committed to doing that and providing free testing for anyone who distributes even one symptom, and that they're taking the workers who are providing the test into neighborhoods and into institutions and giving it free of charge. And the general public may not even know these things, but I find that to be very encouraging, because as a faith community, one of the things that we realize is that in the midst of so much suffering and so much death, that there's still good work that needs to be done, and that all of us are called and chosen to be available to meet the needs of our community, to meet the needs of those who are unsheltered and who may not be able to practice social distancing, or to wash their hands, or may not have access to healthy foods, or even access to physicians and nurses who can oversee their care. And so it has been a challenge, but I believe that from what I'm hearing and what I see is that people of faith are rising to the challenge, and they are, in fact, more connected than they have been in the past. We know that the Great Commission of our faith is to go into all the world to meet the needs of those, both spiritually and materially. But the fact is that in many instances the church has failed, because most of our activities have been inwardly focused rather than outwardly focused. And so I've heard a couple of things that I find truly inspirational. One is that the church is not the building. The church is the connected lives of people. And so we often say, I am the church, you are the church. Together we are the church. And then I heard someone say, the doors of the church are closed because the church has left the building, but the church is alive and open. And so that's what's been guiding us, and it's been an incredible experience.
All right, that's wonderful. Let me just remind listeners, you're listening to The Check-In. I'm Janet Saidi, and we're talking with Jana Lancaster, Shakir Hamoudi, and Clyde Ruffin, all community faith leaders, and also Clyde is a city council member, talking with us about faith during crisis. How are you gathering virtually with your faith communities right now? How are you making decisions about gathering going forward? Let us know how you're practicing your faith and connecting with your community during this time. We've just got a few more minutes, but if you are a member of any of these congregations or another or want to talk about faith sustaining you, let us know. Feel free to join the conversation with these guests. You can bring your questions or your comments. Are you doing a drive-through communion? This is something that we read about, and we're curious about that. Let us know if you've considered participating or planning a drive-through communion during this time. Mr. Shakir Hammoudi, we're talking about the faith and the good works and the response efforts that kind of connect with faith. Is the Islamic Center finding faith sustaining your congregation through volunteer and response efforts or other ways?
Yes, that's a good point. In fact, during a regular Ramadan, before this crisis, as I mentioned, we used to have a break fast, breaking the fast at the sunset every night at the building of the Islamic Center of Central Missouri. And it was open for everyone, Muslims and non-Muslims, especially those students or those singles who are not married. But it was open for everybody. Well, we cannot do that this year. So what we did, we had prepared what we call Ramadan gift boxes. And we some volunteers stand there for 1 hour every other day or twice a week or 3 times a week. And we announce it to the community. So you can just go and pick your box without any question asked. So this is at least one thing to satisfy those who feel lonely or who feel in need of those great meals. Yes, we do not cook them, but we give them the raw material. Another thing, we have a kind of what we call zakah, which is a portion of the income that is to be given at the end of Ramadan before the celebration. We call it zakatul fitr. Again, as another gift that is being distributed for the last week or so throughout the month, and that to make people and children in particular happy. And in the day of Eid, the celebration, again, some volunteers, especially the young volunteers, have prepared gift boxes for the kids. So the people, they come and drive. They do not get out of the car. They bring their children, so they just pick the box and leave without getting off the car. So hopefully that will be in the day of celebration. So we try our best to make use of the occasion. Number one, by really to continue to worship God according to His command, and at the same time to be creative in how to connect with our community and how to live up to their challenges and needs at this difficult time, with the hope that this time will go and we will be relieved and we go back to our houses of worship, all of us, and try to find a good refuge there and connect physically with the people, with the community, with the center, also with the mosque.
All right. You are listening to The Check-In on KBIA. We're talking about faith during crisis. We have a caller. Kit is calling from Columbia. Kit, welcome to The Check-In. What's on your mind right now?
My question is this, it's for Dr. Hammoudi. Dr. Hammoudi, we grew so comfortable in your market when you had your market, the gourmet market. And I wonder now, many of those specialty foods are so much harder to find, whether they're for religious ceremonies or whether they're just for dietary change that culture growth creates. I wonder if you have any places you can suggest where we can go for the kinds of things you had in your deli and the kinds of things that were part of your conversation over coffee at your market.
Okay, thanks so much for that call, Kit. We'll get the answer here. Shakir Hammoudi, what do you say to that?
Well, Kit, I think you really touched a nerve in my heart before, because I do also miss that market, and I honestly felt that was very much needed in the city of Columbia. That's why I took the initiative to open that in 2003 with the philosophy that we really need to get together as a community that is very diverse, at least if not through faith or other peace activities, but through food, so as we all appreciate one another and the taste of one another when it comes to consuming the best part of enjoying life, which is really food. So to answer your question, that combination of that diverse selection of foods. I mean, the closest city really that I could tell you about is Champaign, Illinois. That is the closest. Otherwise you have to really go to different markets, and you would be lucky if you could find all the selection. But again, we closed this because I think that chapter of my life had ended, and I had focused on the outreach of my community, which I found it a priority for me. And I begged people to take the market even free, honestly. Okay. I just take the free, but nobody was willing to do that.
Okay. All right. We have only a few seconds really left here, and I don't want to end this discussion without the opportunity to ask each of you really just something I'm very curious about. I'd love to hear from each of you on just how you are personally finding faith sustaining you. You can talk about this in terms of your congregation or public response, but how is faith sustaining you during this time? Jana, let's start with you. And we've really just got about 10 seconds for each of you, so I apologize. I'll have to be quick.
For me, it's continuing to work with my community, the temple, the online, and then also Friday night Shabbat dinners at my house is something we hadn't done too consistently before, and we're really doing it now, and it's been wonderful.
Fantastic. So just a little bit more ritual in your life helps. Mr. Hammoudi, how about you? How is faith sustaining you and your family right now?
Yes, God said, the earth is for me, and you can worship me at any spot on earth. So with the mosque, without the mosque, our hearts are connected with God, and that is what my family and myself and my community are really connecting through that philosophy. And we found it very appealing and very fruitful, and probably we did not realize how much we can do even without the building. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. And Reverend Ruffin, let's end with you.
When I first became pastor almost 16 years ago, I received a piece of very sage advice from an experienced pastor who warned me to not become so committed to doing God's work that I lost my relationship with God. And so, like many pastors, I find myself very, very busy doing God's work. But in this season that we're experiencing, it has provided an opportunity for me to slow down, to pause, and to renew my personal relationship with God. And as I'm doing that, I'm finding that the work that I do is more focused and it is more meaningful, but it is also significantly less busy. And I think that this is an important outcome of this experience for me personally.
All right. Wonderful words to end by. Thank you so much, Reverend and Councilmember Ruffin, Shakir Hammoudi, and Jana Lancaster. Thanks for checking in with us today. Thank you for checking in. Tomorrow we'll be with the Missouri Symphony Orchestra. What classical music is streaming these days? Until then, I'm Janet Saidi. Stay well and stay in touch.